Hello, I'm Forrest Keegle and I'm a visual artist, and we're here on Jara country, the home of the Jajawarang people. I'd like to pay my respects to their ancestors from the Everywen and my deep respect for this country that sustains us. We're working on a project called Out of the Box for Multicultural Arts Victoria, MAV, and we're here at the Emporium Creative Hub, where I'll be interviewing 4 amazing artists. So you'll get to learn more about their artistic journey, their cultural roots, what sustains them, and what they're doing creatively. So thanks very much to Regional Arts Victoria for funding this program. It's the culmination of 3 years of funding, and it's a program to showcase regional artists in Bendigo and Shepparton. And enjoy watching and learning more about these artists, because I certainly have. Hello, Jemima. It's really great to have a chat with you today here on Jara country in Bendigo. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself to me, please.
Okay, cool. So my name is Jemima. I'm a Congolese South African, so my family is from DRC, Congo, but I pretty much grew up in South Africa. So I guess I tend to identify more as South African than anything else. But yeah, I work in public health. I've migrated to Australia from South Africa in 2016, and yeah, I'm just living life.
Living life and creating incredible drawings.
Yes, that's true. I think in my spare time, I just love to pick up a pen, because I feel like I'm a bit of a lazy artist, and I feel like the pen is just the best medium to just play around with lines and create drawings.
Yeah. Well, what you're doing with the pen is really quite amazing.
Thank you.
They're really beautiful and powerful works. And there's a lot of beauty in using an everyday material. It's a really lovely way to communicate.
Yeah.
Have you used other materials before, or do you just keep coming back to the pen?
So when I started with pencil. I guess most of my earlier works were mainly like pencil drawings, and then I explored a bit with paint. Not my favorite medium, just because, especially with oil paint, it takes a while to dry.
Forever.
And
100 years, they say, to really dry properly.
I know. It's like, that's good, because if you make an error, you can fix it. But at the same time, I'm like, no, I don't have patience for that. So I think one day I just picked up a pen and I was like, let me just see how I go. And I think ever since then, I think I tend to lean more towards pen. Like, I might incorporate other mediums in my artworks, but I think pen tends to be my go-to.
Yeah, which is wonderful, and it's so portable as well.
Yes.
Because you can draw anywhere with the pen.
Yes, and it's so cheap as well.
That's right. Have you got a favourite type of pen?
Well, I tend to use the big, I think it's 0.5.
Yeah.
Because it's like really fine.
Yeah.
And ballpoint pen, it's less messy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's really interesting. I know a few artists that draw with pen, and they tend to have favourites.
Yeah.
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 Because it's, it's all about whatever tool in our toolkit is going to work for us. Yes. And it's really nice for people watching to know they don't need some fancy, big, expensive equipment.
Yes.
Something as simple as a pen can be so powerful and effective.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So what led you into creativity? Like, what made you feel like, you could do anything in your spare time. You could be out, playing basketball or doing something else. What's within you felt like it needed to come out in this type of work?
So I think for me, I kind of got into art a bit later on in my life. So it was mainly through school, so through high school. So it's a long story, but I went to a private school in South Africa, and because it was a fairly new school, the way they had like cohorted subjects meant that you could only take one subject from like each cohort. Oh. So at that time I was very adamant on being a doctor. So of course I took biology and physics, and then there was this like random category of like subjects that I was like, no thank you. And in there, it was art, it was geography, and it was like computer sciences, which I was just like, no, I
What
don't
a combination.
I
So
know.
strange.
It's like, I don't want to do any of these. And then I think my friend at that time picked art. So I was like, I'll just join you, like, see how I go. If I'm not feeling it in a week, I can just drop out and do geography.
Yeah.
And so that's probably how I started. And I think the art teacher at that time, she was probably the best artist I've ever met.
Wow.
Super talented, and she's very passionate about art. She can be very critical as well, but super like passionate. And she just spent all her extra time helping me get into art. And because I feel like before then I could barely draw to save my life. So, and she just encouraged me to just keep going and not be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah. There's no mistakes in art. What are you saying?
100%.
It's just things that didn't go the way you planned.
True. I think I tend to be very hard on myself because I try to make my portraits as realistic as possible. So, yeah, I'll be like, oh my God, I made a mistake and panic. But she was really supportive in guiding me through that. And I think why I've still been doing it to this day is because I love challenging myself. I love challenging that inner critic of like, oh, I can't draw, or I'm going to make a mistake. So I just love doing that.
Yeah. Well, and pen is not a forgiving medium. Like, you can't erase it.
Yes.
You can't paint over it.
Yes.
I mean, you can add more, but it's not, as you know so well, being an expert of wielding a pen, it's not something that you can really change. You know, once you've made a mark, that mark is there.
Is there. That is so true.
Yeah.
And I think that's why earlier on I tried staying away from pen, was because of that. And I was more comfortable with pencil because I could just pick up an eraser and just restart.
So for people who aren't able to watch today and are listening, would you be able to describe this beautiful, powerful drawing?
Okay, I'll try. So I'm not really sure the size. I'm assuming it's A1 in size. And essentially it's a portrait of a young child, I guess, staring blankly ahead with no emotion. And then at the top of her image, it says climate change is making extreme weather events more common. And below her, she's got two words that say adapt, mitigate, to support a vulnerable population.
And it's really beautifully drawn with pen. Like, there's really fine shading. You can almost see every hair on her head, which is quite incredible. And how old would you say that she would be?
I'd probably say 6.
Yeah, 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, the look on her face to me is like she's holding us to account.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm 6 years old. What am I going to inherit? Is there going to be a world left for me?
Yeah. I think the reason for that, I guess, expression or lack of emotion is that most of my artworks prior to this one tend to focus on emotion, so a lot of sadness, happiness, and other various emotions, and I kind of wanted to play on that and just, I guess, do something or show someone without emotion, and just let the viewer interpret how they see that.
And I can imagine she's pretty strong. So is the subject someone you know?
No, not someone I know. I think I chose the subject because, I mean, I like kids, and I feel like they tend to be, well, vulnerable, of course, but also kind of helpless at times. So it was more targeted towards parents and just adults in general, because it's like, you're living in this world now, but in a couple of decades, there'll be the new adults, and what are you doing about it, essentially?
Yeah, that's right. Is there a world to inherit?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No, really powerful. And we might talk a little bit about this piece here as well. Can you describe that for people that are listening?
Yep. So essentially, it's a sculpture On a wooden plank. It's colorless. It's a fist facing upwards with writing on the side that discusses violence against women and how it began. So essentially it's a manifestation of historically unequal power relationships between men and women. I hope I explained that properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some really powerful text about violence against women perpetrated by men and the inequality in our society.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really strong, powerful piece. So
Yeah.
where do you feel like some of these works come from? Like, do you feel that it's coming from your cultural background, or are they observations of society, or where do you feel like your ideas and your drive to make these works comes from?
I think probably more observations of society and I guess current topics that are trending in society at that time. So in terms of the sculpture that focuses on violence against women, it was done during COVID. And I guess there was a lot of narrative around how those rates have increased because of, I guess, lockdown and people being, I guess, confined to their houses. So that was probably a topic that was trending at that time. So I felt that, like, because also what I like doing through my artwork is to spark conversation. So yeah, that's why that was done. And then in terms of the climate change one, I've done a lot of work in that space, in youth engagement and climate change, but also it's a topic that has been going on for a couple of years and will probably be going on.
Well, sadly, like, I'm in my 50s, and sadly all my life it's been a reality, a thing we've been aware of.
Yep.
That, you know, greenhouse gases and climate change, and it's kind of shocking that not a lot's really shifting.
Yeah, so, like, I guess...
Or not shifting fast enough. Things are happening,
yes,
but we really are getting beyond the tipping point.
Yes, that's true. So I guess, like, from my artworks, I try to tap into those parts of society that people try to ignore or overlook. Like, for example, family violence is important, but how many people actually, you know, do something about it or report it when, I guess, they do see something that's not right, or I feel like a lot of people tend to shun away from it because it's almost like a taboo per se. So I guess through my artworks I like touching on those parts of society.
Yeah, which is really, I think that's our job as artists, to be able to observe what's happening, think about what's happening, and it's almost a stealthy way to engage people, because no one's going to come to a talk about, some people will come to a talk about family violence, but people will go to an art exhibition and art changes people. Like, because art connects with people on an emotional level, when we view work, we are changed by it. So someone will read this powerful statement you've written and see this strong fist and think, oh, that's true. So it's like a stealthy and soft way to lure people in and then hit them with the hard truths and the realities, and, you know, it can be really strong way of creating social change. So well done you for you know, putting these messages out there in such a clear way that's also compelling. Like, it's you know, like, who doesn't want to walk up to this incredible image on the wall in an exhibition and come closer and look at her, look in her eyes, and then read the words and think, oh, okay, yeah, what I'm doing now affects her future. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of art is that, you know, everyone interprets it in their own way. So they could read a text or see an image, and I guess they mix it with their own experiences and their culture, and I guess everyone's take-home message can be very different. Absolutely.
We all see our own thing. I often think of it as the with visual art, the loop closes when a viewer looks at it.
Yes.
So it's many things to many people.
Yeah.
But then it becomes complete when a viewer is there with it.
Yeah.
And then they take that away in their mind's eye and can be changed by it.
Yeah. So true.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I know you've only been in Bendigo for a short time, and you probably have been spending that time settling into a new place that you're living. Have you got any ideas floating around in your brain or percolating away that you're thinking about what you might like to work on next?
Yes, a little bit. I think I kind of took a break in 2024 from art, so I've kind of come back to it this year. So I guess from in terms of an idea perspective, I'm wanting to draw more on the concept of family and what that means to me, and I want to do something a bit more different, so like incorporate more color, various colors in my art pieces, still drawing on like emotion, but I guess something that's a bit more warm and something that just represents my family. Yeah.
It sounds interesting. So do you think that might mean we might see some figurative works that have got more than one person in them? Not like so much the solo portrait, but some interaction between
some
subjects?
Type of interaction, and also maybe potentially a sculpture, because I think this sculpture that's here is my first one ever. And I haven't really played with that type of medium. So maybe doing something potentially smaller, but maybe more figurative.
Yeah. And what did you make this with?
I think it was air dry clay.
Yeah.
Air dry clay,
Yeah, it looks like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, sculpture's amazing. There's so much you can do with the 3D form.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. And you can, the great thing with sculpture is you can, because it can take a while to make, you can start small, like you can make like a little maquette and play with forms like that, and then go larger when you're ready. Yeah, we might be seeing some life-size family sculptures. Who knows what's going to come
potentially,
next.
Because I think with this one I spent like a couple of hours on YouTube, because I was like, oh my god, how do I even start this? So I think making that, I was so impressed because I could challenge myself. And it looks like a fist, so
totally.
That's all I wanted it to look like.
Yeah, but it also has a beautiful rawness, like your hand in making it is evident, and like if we wanted a machine-made looking fist, you could get a mannequin and that wouldn't have the life in it that this does. So
that's true.
And it's probably a nice challenge for someone who likes things to be controlled and a bit perfect, to do something a little bit looser like this.
Looser and messier.
Because jump in and have fun.
That's true.
You talked a little bit about your time at school and the art teacher that inspired you. Was there, in the work that you created when you were at school and as a younger person, was there anything that particularly inspired you?
At that time, to be honest, passing. Just getting through school, passing, graduating. Because I feel like earlier on, art was more of a stressor to me than anything else, and I think that's why I took like such a massive gap after I finished high school, was because it was just so stressful. Like I said, I was very critical of my own work and everything. So at that time, I'd probably say just getting through it. But then also like seeing people's reactions, when they would come and be like, oh my god, you did this. Wow, that is so amazing, That was also like probably what inspired me. And
it sounds a bit like you surprised yourself as well.
Yes.
Because like we all have different paths to get to where we're getting creatively, and some people have a really strong drive and know what they want to do, or I want to play that instrument, or I want to make this or that. And it's almost like maybe you didn't realise what was within you, and then when it started to come out, now you can't stop.
Yes, that's true. I feel like now that I have more time, and I guess it's according to my schedule, I feel a bit more free to do what I do. Yes.
Yeah. And what what do you think? Is there anything that you think that would help you, like particularly given that you've only been in Bendigo a short time, what can you imagine would help you as a person that's just arrived to a big regional city like this? What do you think would help you to be more connected with other artists or to keep creating?
I'll probably say like opportunities like this, or like, you know, being involved in like local exhibitions or local art groups, just so I can get that opportunity to network and meet other people, but also pick up from their artworks and I guess their art journey and use that to inspire me to, you know, create my own art pieces. But yeah, I think probably opportunities like this and
no, I think it's really important for all artists at every stage of their career. It's really good to be able to connect with each other, like to be in group shows and meet each other, and then like a lot of my friends are artists. It's like, you know, you get this, you have something strong in common, and then you go and look at other exhibitions together and stuff like that. Have you been to some of the galleries around Bendigo?
No, not in Bendigo, Melbourne, yes, but not in Bendigo. Yeah. It's so weird because I've been to art galleries in Adelaide, in Queensland, in Paris, but not in Bendigo, so it's definitely on my list. But
well, there's some great spaces here and great things to look at. I can give you some tips later.
Sounds good.
Some good things to go and see. So, Jemima, if you were going to give your younger self some tips, like maybe the you that hadn't chosen art as a subject yet, what would you say to her as advice? Like you're getting in your time machine now and you're going back to before choosing those subjects. What would you say?
Probably tell myself to explore opportunities, probably encourage myself to take the art, to definitely challenge myself, not be afraid to make mistakes. I'd probably as well tell her to be a bit patient. I think at that time I was very rushed because I felt like I started art. I felt like I had to have a certain level of skill or certain skills at that point in time. So I'd probably tell myself to be a bit more patient, a bit more honest with myself, supportive of myself, but also like just explore, to be honest. Like I'll tell her that she's very young, so she should just explore and see where life takes her.
Yeah. Good advice.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would work for pretty much anyone. That's
true.
It's great advice. And like with drawing, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I can't draw," or it's often people will say, "Oh," but it's actually a learned skill.
Yes.
So it is something that, like they say with any area of expertise, you need to put hours in to get up to the level of skill.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just picked up a pen and you drew these. Like you've had many hours behind that.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people that, like, if you want to draw, just draw and just keep drawing.
Yeah.
It's
just
the foundation of most art.
Yeah. Just keep going. Because for most of my artworks, it's like the first couple of hours, it doesn't look like anything. Especially like my pen drawings, it looks like just like a piece of paper with just like lines everywhere. And like the more work you put into it and the more time you spend into it, it starts like forming into this piece that looks so good and so realistic. So
the persistence is really important, especially when you think about the works like these. They're made up of tiny little, very fine lines that more and more need to get added to get the three-dimensional look and the shading. So it's about just keeping going, but it's also about knowing when to stop. So I think you've got a really good balance, because these pieces aren't overworked. They're not, you know, they've still got their life in them. The subjects are very, you know, they look like living, breathing people. They don't look like sort of, you know, totally smudged. You haven't gone too far.
I feel like that's such a good point that you made about it not looking overworked, because pretty much with all my pen drawings, the one constant thing across all of them is that they're not finished. So if you look at each art piece, like the way I see it, I'm like, it's not done. You know, but as long as it looks like something and it conveys what I wanted to convey, I'm like, okay, I can probably take a step back here and there. But like, I can look at my art pieces now and be like, oh my god, I could actually fix that up, or, you know, put more shading in there, or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to look like as well, like it's overworked. And yeah,
I think that allows the viewer a way into the work as well. If it feels like there's a little bit of, like, I really like that there's still some of these working lines are visible. To me, that makes it really interesting. And that there's enough, you know, you've got all this lovely white space around her. It feels like, you know, you can engage with it. And if it was really polished and overworked, well, why not take a photograph? I mean, you know, they invented the camera a while ago, whereas the way that you're drawing, no one else can do that. That's your work. So, yeah,
that's true. Because that art piece took me about 80 hours to do, because it was very fine.
Did you measure your time?
I did. It's the only one I did. The rest I was like, nah. But that's the only one that I actually like measured my time. Yeah. Because it was very fine lines and
no, it's so delicate. It's really beautiful and really delicate. And so you exhibited that. Yeah.
So
tell us about that experience.
Yeah. So I think, like earlier I mentioned that I did a lot of work with youth engagement and climate change. So around that time they had, like, I guess 3 different, I guess, components of the project. One was sport, like how can we promote climate change through sport. Another one was through art and music. And then I think the other one was through, I'm not really sure, food, I believe, or something like that. And so, of course, I did the drawing, and that's probably where I initially exhibited it, was to other young people in our group. And then someone told me, well, at that time I was in Mildura, someone told me about the Magenta group exhibition. I think it happens once every year in Mildura. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's just get that out there. So she's been at 2 exhibitions. Yeah. She's been around Victoria, to be honest. Been to Melbourne, been to Bendigo before me, and around Mildura as well. So it was a good experience for me, because I think for me, one of the things as an artist is that I'm very shy to show my artworks. So exhibiting it was like that next step. Like, even though I'm not physically there, that art piece is there and people are engaging and interacting with it. So it was, I guess, the next step for me as an artist. Yeah.
Oh, it's important for them to get out there. I mean, it's also, the most important thing is the creation, and really we're doing it for ourselves when we're making work, but it's nice to share it as well, and I think that does get easier as well. But, you know, I know people in their 70s who are very well experienced artists and are still incredibly nervous before an exhibition open or before showing work. So it's, you know, part of their territory.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.